Welcome to a more just and merciful world. I'm Kathy Humphrey, president of Carlow University. On this podcast, we talk to leaders, teachers, artists, scientists, and historians from around the globe to explore how to bring more justice and mercy in our own world. I am so thrilled today to have with me Andy Masich. Now, this is a name known all over the world, but we really know this name in Pittsburgh as Andy runs our Heinz History Museum, one of literally the best museums in the country, in the world, Andy?
Kathy, just recently, USA Today named the Heinz History Center the #1 history museum in America.
In America, I saw that. And that's why I said I knew in the country and probably in the world if it's in America. Don't you think, Andy?
You know, I went to China not too long ago, and the people there were delighted to show me some of their museums and cultural attractions, our sister city, Wuhan, China. But they knew about us.
Oh,
They knew about Pittsburgh and its renaissance. They knew about the Heinz History Center as a museum that can make a difference in a
yeah.
community, and that's what we try to do.
And I have been there hundreds of times, and for all kinds of reasons. I've been able to be in the museum, and you are so right. I think that's exactly what how it's different is that the stories that are told there are very different and very unique. So
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I'm so glad to hear you say that because, you know, we try to be part of the community and we specialize in rites of passage events. So, of
Yeah.
course, we have exhibitions and programs, but we also do sort of rental events. So we do 90 weddings a year. We do bar mitzvahs and funerals and
We do
memorials. Well, not actual funerals, but memorials.
Sorry. Okay.
And retirements and rites of passage.
Yeah.
Moments in people's lives that are important to them and their families.
Right.
And so we feel like we are part of the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I haven't been to a funeral there, Andy.
Thank you.
But I have been to all kinds of other things there, from parties to events to special displays. So it's very much a part of my own Pittsburgh story is to be a part of the history
I love hearing
of Heinz, right? So, all right, Andy, we're going to start off a little bit about who you are, and I've done a little bit of homework, so I've heard some of your story before, but I'm fascinated by your story in as much as you talk about your childhood room was a museum.
It's true.
And I've done a little bit of work on how people find their purpose. And one of the things that I found in that research is that oftentimes what people love to do as children, they figure out it's very connected to their purpose on the planet. And so I couldn't do anything but smile when I heard that you turned your room, your bedroom, into a museum, even to the point of having pamphlets.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I was a weird kid. And when I was about 10 years old, I discovered in my grandfather's trunk in the attic of an old Victorian home at Lake Chautauqua, New York, where my family would spend the summers, I found in this trunk a Civil War bullet. It was a mini ball, which is a pointed lead bullet, monstrous thing. And I was fascinated with this thing. And I asked my grandmother about it, and she didn't remember anything really. And so I drew a picture of it on white notebook paper with blue lines on it, and it was a penciled picture of this bullet. And I sent it to the Smithsonian Institution. And to their credit, one of those curators wrote back to me So, in my kiddish,
How old were you when you did
I
that?
was about 10 years old.
That's impressive.
Well, I wanted to know about this thing, and there weren't any books that described it. And so that curator wrote back and said, "What you have there, son, is a Civil War bullet. It's called a mini ball. It was invented by Captain Minet of the French Army in 1849, and it revolutionized warfare and made the Civil War the deadliest war in American history." And I was fascinated by this story, and I started collecting mini balls, and I would write to people in the
Where did you find these other mini balls?
Well, in reading magazines and books, I would find out about people with private collections. I said, could I buy one or trade you something for that mini ball? And soon my mini ball collection was the largest in the neighborhood. And I started making things, paper mache hats, wooden swords. I had exhibits on the walls, labels on everything. And you had to take a brochure from a rack on the door of my boyhood bedroom in order to gain entry. But from a very early time, I loved to tell stories of the past and ferret out the lessons that we might find in them. And when I got older, and it was time to go to college, high school guidance counselors offered me advice and said, "Well, why don't you be an engineer, or why don't you be, a business major?" And I said, "Well, the only thing I'm really passionate about is history." And they said, "Well, you can't make a living doing history. You'll be flipping burgers at McDonald's or some such place." And but I stuck with it, and I took courses, and I finally decided I wanted to literally dig up the past.
Yeah.
I went into archaeology.
So wait, Andy, because you just said something that's really important that maybe other people might not catch, but I caught it. You didn't allow somebody else to tell you what you needed to do. You followed your own pathway. And you're not flipping burgers today. You're not flipping burgers, but I find that when you land in something you're passionate about, you can do it longer, harder, deeper, and better than most people can of things they're just skilled at. And so when we talk to students or our alumni about finding their own pathway, we often talk about this whole notion of their calling. And clearly you had a calling to be a historian, to search up the past.
I think you're right. I talk to a lot of students who come to us as interns or who are trying to figure out their own path. And I sometimes tell them my own story, but I don't think there's just one way to do it. There are many people who are doing history or following their passion, but their day job is something else. They may be a plastic surgeon or a lawyer, or they may be flipping burgers. That's okay. But find a way for your passion to out. Find a way to stay engaged in what really, as you say, you think is your purpose in life, because we all want to live a purposeful life.
Right. That's so true. All right. So you get to a point where you think, I want to dig up history. And you could have done other things.
Yeah, I probably could have, but I said, I want to literally dig up the past. So I became an historical archaeologist. And for a couple of summers, I went on site excavating places like the Pig War on San Juan Island in the state of Washington. Have you ever heard of the Pig War?
Unfortunately not.
Nobody else has either. And it was 1859, and it was a boundary dispute between Great Britain and the United States. The only casualty in this war was a pig owned by the Hudson's Bay Company, and both countries rushed troops to this island. They fortified it, and Well, the National Park Service wanted to make it a historic park. And so I was contracted to help excavate the site. It was a wonderful experience, but I soon realized that I couldn't really make it a career.
Mm.
It was soft money, grants. It was seasonal work. It really couldn't do it in the winter time.
Right.
And so I thought, you know what? The artifacts are what excite me. Each of those objects from the past can tell a story if you know how to read it. And I was getting better and better at reading things like a detective, trying to get the story out of an object. And I thought, well, where are the objects? They're in the museums. They've already got them there. So I went to a museum. I started volunteering. I became a docent, a museum guide. And I was promoted and got increasingly responsible jobs. Finally became a museum director. And my museum is really my boyhood bedroom,
Yeah.
just on steroids.
Right. So you came to Pittsburgh, and when you came, what were you doing?
I was heading up the Colorado State Historical Society, which is a great state agency with about 11 museums scattered around the state of Colorado. But it was actually a headhunting firm that contacted me in Denver, Colorado. And they said, we think you should look at this museum in Pittsburgh. And they didn't know it, but I actually had Pittsburgh roots.
Oh,
In 1783, my forebears came to Western Pennsylvania. They were Scots-Irish farmers. They were probably rabble-rousers in the Whiskey Rebellion in the 1790s. And all of my grandparents for 5 generations are buried someplace in Western Pennsylvania. And but the search committee for the Heinz History Center didn't know that. I wanted to see this history center in this city that was just part of our family lore and
Right.
legend.
Mhm.
I hadn't really spent any time here. And I was so impressed with the people I met. It wasn't the building. It
Mhm.
wasn't the exhibits. It was the people and their passion for the place. They so wanted it to work. They were so proud of this city and its stories. And soon I discovered a rich history here, richer than, I hate to say it, but some of those Western states that are new upstarts compared to Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh with its deep history. And so I signed on, and the Heinz History Center at that time had just opened. They had just refurbished the old Chautauqua Lake Ice Company warehouse in the Strip District, right next to the convention center. And there weren't any exhibits in it yet, but it had so much potential. And I'm proud that working with this community and with an amazing staff who share this kind of passion for history and people.
Yeah.
We're the People Museum.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's a dinosaur museum and there's a bird museum and there's a plant place, but we're the People Museum.
Yeah.
We tell the stories of people. And my colleagues at the History Center, they really get that.
Yeah.
They believe in it.
So I've had the pleasure of going through some of the exhibits around women, around the orphans, the Three Rivers adoption exhibit. And you've paid a lot of attention not only to the rich culture, but the differences. And you've paid a lot of attention to make sure that the marginalized have been seen. What makes you do that?
It's a good question, and you use the word difference. And We talk about that a lot, our curators, our educators. It's important for us to recognize that there are differences in people, but I think it's almost more important to recognize what we have in common. There are so many things that we as human beings share. And I think it's just as important to look at those things as what makes us different. Because if we focus exclusively on the differences, I think it pulls us apart.
And how do you pull that together, right? Because the displays are separated, right? The Native American display, all of these they're kind of separated. But how do you bring them together so that in actuality, how we are more alike, the human dynamic of it? How do you help people to understand and be able to transcend past just the individual difference?
It's a really good question. It's what we talk a lot about at the History Center. How do you do both? How do you show how related and connected we are as human beings? And at the same time, how do you do justice to the differences, the uniqueness of our neighborhoods, our ethnic groups, our nationalities? It's a balance. And so there are some exhibits that we have that focus on discrete groups of people. We have one gallery we call our Special Collections Gallery, and it's organized by neighborhood or by ethnic group. So you can see the African American collection, the Irish collection, the German collection, the Carpatho-Russin collection, the Italians, because grandparents come with their grandkids and they say, "Where's our stuff? Show us our stuff." And what they mean is we want to see the objects of our past. We want to learn about the group that I'm from or that I identify with.
Right.
And so there is a section that is designed that way. It's kind of like the nationality rooms, but in a museum. And then there are other exhibits that are focused on themes like innovation and industry, and the clash of empires during the French and Indian War in the 1750s. And those, we weave the stories together into a rich tapestry. Now, you can follow a thread in that tapestry if you prefer, or you can see it as a complete object with these woven threads together that are almost hard to tease apart. I think someday, not in our time, I'm talking about generations from now, there will be less focus on what makes us different and more on what pulls us together.
Why do you
But
think?
we're in a transitional phase right now where we need to do both.
Yeah. Why do you think it's going to be different in the future? I mean, we have this history, and we're going through some tumultuous times even today. But what do you think?
What
Because
makes me optimistic?
yeah, what makes you optimistic about that this is a possibility? Because I think, as we talk so much with our students about creating a more just and merciful world, we believe we're going to get there. And so to hear you say that, I find it a bit exhilarating.
Well, I think if you take the historical perspective, you'll see how much progress we have made in just the last 100 or 200 years. I mean, even in this country, we have gone from a time in which slavery was accepted as a norm. It's sort of baked into our Constitution and then into our thinking. But we fought a war with ourselves and abolished that institution. And so much other progress has been made from warring against native peoples and tribes fighting one another on this continent to a time when there is much greater respect for individual rights. Even in our lifetime, I've seen this happen. I mean, I was alive in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act, and I've experienced or lived through times that have changed remarkably. Now, some people might say, well, they haven't changed enough. They haven't changed fast enough. And I can understand that, depending on your life experience and your point of view. But the trend is, I think, upward and positive and toward a more just and merciful future. Have you read Steven Pinker's book on violence? He's a Harvard psychologist who focuses on how much better things are today than they were 100, 200, 300 years ago. He's actually gone back to prehistoric times, looking at archaeological evidence. And the way people interact with each other today is more caring and inclusive than it's ever been in the history of humankind. So I'm hopeful that that trajectory will continue. It's going to take work. And think about just the physical merging of people in our society. Could an African-American man and a white woman be married in 1950 in most states in the Union? I'm not sure that they could. This is something that is commonplace today. The physical makeup of our population is blending, just as customs and traditions are. I think that will contribute in time. People won't know who to hate anymore.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I agree that there has been a lot of progress, but in some ways it feels like today we're taking so many steps backwards. So historically, do you see that as a pattern, that there's backward steps and then forward steps occur?
I think there are always backward steps. It's part of our culture, our society. And I'm not just looking at the United States, but the whole world. I mean, think of the progress that's been made around the world for disadvantaged populations within a country, women and girls. I recognize that there's still a lot of work to do internationally.
It's quite fascinating, but just the human spirit of what can be done in the midst of crises, in the midst of people saying you cannot do. But here are 5 women who create a legacy in this city. Mercy hospitals all over the country, Mercy universities all over the country were started right here from these 7 women who come across the ocean from Ireland to Pittsburgh to start this university, really to do the next great work. That's why they came here.
I couldn't agree more. We talk about big trends in history, and there's an interest in taking a statistical approach. I think that the idea of individuals making a difference has been sort of discounted in recent years, but I do think there's something to it. Think about Sister Frances Ward, who comes here with these 6 nuns, these sisters from an Ireland plagued with potato blight, where there are people starving there. Many of those people have fled to the United States to build a better life for themselves and their families. And these sisters come here thinking, there are people there to help. They need us. And they arrive here in Pittsburgh and they pitch in at once.
Right.
They start schools to educate the uneducated. They start hospitals. Of course, religious instruction is part of their mission as well. They don't look back. They roll up their sleeves. They've got this "we can do it" spirit that really defines our city and our region, that we can do it.
Yeah.
We're isolated here across the Allegheny Mountains in this place that's somewhere between. It's not Midwest, it's not Mid-Atlantic, it's not Appalachia. It's someplace different.
Yeah.
It's isolated from the rest of the world. So we have to make do. We have to figure it out on our own.
And I really believe if we're going to get to a different place, if we're going to get to a greater place, that spirit of we can do it, you know, we have to pass that to the next generation.
Right.
Because I do believe that that's what's going to make a difference. That same spirit that they had, the same spirit that you've seen in so many individuals that really have made an impact down through the history, is really what I believe is going to change the world. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I do think our region, I hate to sound too prideful in this, but our region has this history of innovation and we can do it spirit, and this work ethic that goes with it. And we see it time and again because people were here sort of isolated from the rest of the world. They had to figure things out for themselves, and they had to help their neighbors do it. And it became a close-knit society with its own language. We call it Pittsburghese today. Because it wasn't like Philadelphia or Chicago or New York. It was different. During World War II, the people of Pittsburgh got together and they said, we can do it.
Right.
That's, you know, that poster
Right.
of Rosie the Riveter?
Yes.
You know, that's a Pittsburgh thing. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in late 1942, J. Howard Miller, an artist for Westinghouse, came up with this poster. He was contracted to do 41 posters for the war effort to spur wartime production. 50,000 women went into the workforce to work in the mills and factories as their boyfriends and husbands and brothers were in uniform and off to war. And these women just didn't miss a beat. In fact, in many cases, they were better workers than the men they were replacing.
Yeah.
Well, J. Howard Miller does this image of a woman war worker. She's got a red bandana on.
Right.
She's making a muscle.
Right.
And the bubble above her head says, we can do it. And the very week that poster came out, a popular song hit the radio. Are you ready? All the day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie the Riveter. And the people of America heard that song, saw that poster, and said, you know what? That's Rosie the Riveter right there. Miller didn't call her Rosie.
Oh,
He didn't name her. She was just a Westinghouse war worker.
right.
But the people of America, serendipitously, with the release of that song, said, that's Rosie the Riveter. And now, anywhere you go around the world today, if you showed someone that picture and asked, who's that?
Right.
Australia, Paris, Tokyo, you name it, they would say, that's Rosie the Riveter, and she's a Pittsburgher.
That's pretty exciting. All right. You can't leave us without telling us about the new addition to the History Museum.
I'm really excited about this because, as you know, we've been named the #1 history museum in America, and Pittsburgh Magazine, for 4 years running, says that the people of Pittsburgh say we're their favorite museum. Well, we've determined to add about 90,000 square feet
Wow.
to the History Center. It will be a whole city block between 12th and 13th, Smallman and Penn,
Okay.
right next to the Convention Center. We'll be adding the official Pittsburgh Welcome Center This is a partnership with Visit Pittsburgh.
Oh, wonderful.
So people will be able to come in, get visitor information, charge their phones, use the bathroom, go to the cafe, there'll be a new one, and see a film about why is Pittsburgh here and why are Pittsburghers the way they are.
Yeah.
It'll be about 12 minutes long, and that'll set the tone for their visit to explore Pittsburgh and all of its wonderful places and people. We will also add some new exhibit galleries. One will be focused on Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers.
Okay.
One will be about innovation and industry. And another will be about Pittsburgh as the gateway to the West. A lot of people don't realize that the confluence of these rivers here 200 years ago made this region the funnel through which all the world passed through to go west. The rivers were the superhighways of their time, and Pittsburgh was a boat building center and a manufacturing center. So all of those people and all of that material went west to open the West. And that's after Lewis and Clark left here in 1803 to begin their journey of exploration. So think of Pittsburgh in the future as a place that was once the gateway to the West.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be doing in the new wing, including smart classrooms for kids. And just between us, we got this idea. We got an RFP, a request for proposals out there for a developer to work with us to build a history-themed hotel.
Oh, wow.
Don't you think?
That's exciting.
A night at the museum for real?
Yes.
You could stay on the Rosie the Riveter floor or the George Washington floor or the Franco Harris floor. You could look through glass walls into our storage vaults
Oh, that's cool.
and feel like, wow, I'm having a night at a Smithsonian-affiliated museum.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. That's our future. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I am excited about what you're doing, and I'm grateful for all of the work that you do for our community to help us be a community. And I will forever remember the phrase that the Heinz History Museum is the people's museum. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you.